What's up, you guys? This is Devin with CFX Studios TV, back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the video that went moderately viral or super viral. I don't know how much views it got, but it's a video on skin tones and how cameras react to them under certain situations. And in the video, you see a lady running different skin tone palettes or different colors under the skin of a client, and you can see the camera change based on what colors were there. Now, you want to know if this is true. You want to know why this happens or why this happened in the video. Is it fake? Did they doctor it? Is the cameras lying to us? No. So basically, this is not so much a color or skin tone thing so much as it's an exposure thing for the camera. Now, I'm a photographer of 20 years for those of you who don't know me, and most of my content on my YouTube channel is based on photography, teaching, and photography going out into the field and what you expect and how you do certain things on a camera. So you understand exactly why I'm talking to you this way. But just in general, you have to understand what the camera is doing and why it's doing what it's doing, because it is actually changing based on what it sees in a scene. But it's generally not because of skin tones. It's more so about the light that's coming into the camera and the scene that it's actually analyzing. So for every scene that you put your camera in, no matter if it's a super expensive $1 million camera or it's your $1,000 iPhone, Samsung, whatever camera, anything that is a camera, so to speak, run off of three different things. These three different elements are what we tune in our cameras to find exposure. These three elements are shutter speed, ISO, and aperture. These three elements are tuned in the camera to get you a realistic picture for what you think it should look like. You can also go to a non-realistic picture with these three elements and get more creative, like cinematographers and people who make feature films, because this doesn't just work for pictures, this also works for video. Ergo, the video that we saw from Explain the Universe or Explaining the Universe. So the first thing you need to understand is that the camera is a light receiving device. It's supposed to receive light and calculate how much you need for a nice picture or a satisfactory exposure. Nothing too bright, nothing too dark, but something that was replicated by what you saw through the camera lens. There's also two other important factors that determine how the camera operates. One, it will be the camera's exposure meter, how the camera's calculator responds to the light that comes in its wake. So basically, you can tell the camera to take one little portion of the frame and for it to calculate for that, but you can also tell it to calculate for the entire frame. We call this calculation a meter or metering, calculating for light. But most cameras use the entire image to calculate for because it's the most used calculation system, and it's in our camera phones, it's in, like I said, smartphones, it's in our big cameras, small cameras, pro cameras, non-pro cameras. So you understand that the camera's looking for a certain amount of darkness and brightness to be in the scene, and it needs to calculate for it. It's usually going to use a general summative type of calculation. This metering, by the way, is called matrix metering or evaluative metering, when it evaluates the entire scene of the picture. Now look at this video very carefully. You can notice how not only does the skin tones change, but also the background change. That's why I tell you that the background exposure is going to change as well as the skin exposure is going to change, because it's looking for a specific value throughout the entire scene. This value is 18% gray. 18% gray is pretty much a scientific number or amount of gray in a scene that scientists and technologists have deemed to be the most neutral hue, the most neutral exposure. Not too bright, not too dark. Now, this is not the most perfect number in the world, but this gets most of your scenes pretty accurate to the eye based on what you saw coming through the camera. But the issue with 18% gray is that if the scene gets too dark, it's going to want to push it and make it brighter. If the scene gets too bright, it's going to want to bring it down and make it darker so it doesn't overexpose or underexpose. But cameras are not perfect. It does not know exactly what's in the scene, specifically what you're measuring the amount of exposure for. So if you had a really dark background up against a really white complexioned person, it's going to think everything is dark. I need to bring the exposure up. If you had majority of white in the scene and you had a dark skinned person, it's going to think, well, everything is too bright. I need to bring the exposure down or bring the exposure up, depending on how much of what is the majority in the scene. Is it majority brights in the scene or is it majority darks in the scene? So it just depends on what scene you create for the camera to measure, so to speak. So in this video, as you can see, different colors come under her chin, which changes the amount of darkness in the scene, which changes the amount of brightness in the scene. As you could tell, when there was majority brights in the scene, it tried to make the exposure darker. When it was majority darks in the scene, it tried to make the exposure brighter. But this has the adverse effect of changing how many facial imperfections that may be in someone's skin. Because if you have a brighter skin complexion, but you have, maybe some inconsistencies in your skin, the brighter you make your exposure, the less you're able to see those dark inconsistencies. The same thing on the opposite end of the spectrum. If you have a dark skinned person, which most dark skinned people, you can't see as many scars and things of that nature or skin imperfections. If you were to brighten up the exposure, you would then bring all those things out into existence a little bit more. The last thing that controls the camera is the mode. The mode will actually dictate how the camera calculates or whether or not the camera is going to use its own calculation system. It might be that you put your camera on manual mode or your cell phone on manual or pro mode, and you control your aperture exposure, ISO, and therefore you can control how much light comes in at any given time, therefore giving you the exposure that you want despite what the camera thinks. And that's pretty much it, guys. Oh yeah, and here's a side note. If you're on auto white balance, this will also shift the colors in the scene based on what you have your camera set to. So if you have your camera set to auto white balance or a preset white balance like daylight, shade, or incandescent light, well, if you dramatically change the color of your scene of your camera will shift the hues and colors based on the white balance that you set in your camera, your cell phone, any kind of phone, or any kind of camera that you have. So you need to keep all those things in mind. And when you're using your camera, it's going to try its best to give you the best scene based on what you saw coming through the back of the camera. But it is not a perfect device, and you need to keep tabs on all of it. I'm Devin with CFXTV. I know this was a little bit longer of a video, but links in the Cash App description below. You have different things you can click on to purchase to support my channel, and stay tuned for the next video.